Hello and welcome. We're so glad to have you with us in this webinar on navigating the customer journey principles. I'm your moderator, Jenny Alton from the New York Small Business Development Center Central Office. Today's webinar is the third in this brand and marketing strategy series with Sean Atkinson, brand and marketing strategist and owner of Majority Media. So far, we've already covered the L.I.S.T.E.N method, transforming small business content marketing, and the 10 types of entrepreneurs, aligning your business with your entrepreneurial DNA. I'll drop the playlist link in the chat in a few minutes for anyone who has missed those very informative presentations. And so first, I want to recognize that this webinar is brought to you by the Brockport SBDC, a regional center of the NYSBDC. The NYSBDC is a U.S. Small Business Administration resource partner with regional centers at higher education institutions and outreach offices at other locations across New York State. Our free advising, education, research, and advocacy services are made possible by funding from the SBA, New York State, and our host campuses. So you know we are recording today. We will share links to a PDF copy of the slides and the series playlist in a follow-up email. Attendees are muted and will not be on camera. Your chats will only be visible to me and our presenter, Sean. If you have any questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to type them in the Q&A box as they come up. You can open Zoom's Q&A box from the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. And if you don't see that button there, you can always click on the three dots for more and look for it in that menu. We'll take some pauses for questions throughout the presentation. And with that, I am done with all of my housekeeping items and will turn the time over to Sean.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to start off by saying welcome and thank you to everyone that's made their way through the previous sections of this webinar series. With this one, this is going to be a bit more conversational. I wanted to make sure that we're able to tie things together from the L.I.S.T.E.N method, where we talk more about the business journey and understanding your audience, where we transition into the 10 types of entrepreneurs. And that basically speaks to making sure that you can align the business idea with your personality and your surrounding circumstances. And now what we're doing is we're talking about the customer journey principles. Now, there's know, like, trust, and awareness, consideration, and decision. But I find that there are some that go into more detail, and they also give you more information about the beginning of the customer journey, and then what happens after you actually get that actual purchase and that investment. So today we're taking a look at more of that aspect of the customer journey and tying everything together. And I definitely want you to be able to ask questions because I want to make sure that this makes sense and you see how we've actually been telling the story. The beginning is I've got an idea, I have value that I think I can bring to the market. Let me check in with the actual audience and make sure that it's something they have an interest in. Let's make sure that they're prioritizing it. Because one of the things that we'll discuss is the difference between selling something that's a preventative measure and something that is an immediate need, something that is already a challenge. Preventative measures have longer sales processes. Uh, Things that are already being prioritized as a need, that's going to have a bit of a shorter sales process, and it's just going to be something that you handle a little differently. So let's begin. Here we go. So the introduction, understanding the customer journey is key to any business. And what we're really talking about is with the customer journey is the sales process. And the sales process begins when you first initially plant the seed or the thought of a better option or something that they never even thought of before. And then it continues well past being able to get that money, and it transitions into turning them into a brand champion. And a brand champion is just another way of saying someone that enjoyed your service or your product so much that they go out and tell other people about it. Because one of the most important things is to understand that it's a lot easier to be able to get new customers from existing customers as referrals. And it's a lot easier to be able to get consistent revenue by getting people that have already purchased from you to purchase again, as opposed to constantly chasing new customers. So where you hear things like churn, churn is where you get a customer, but because there's something about your service or your product that they didn't particularly care for, they invested once, but they said that they wouldn't do it again. So one of the things that I want to be able to cover is sticking to the theme. I want people in the early stages to listen for certain things and people with existing businesses to look and listen for certain things. So for the early stage businesses, we're talking about pretty much within your first 3 years or so, where you're still trying to establish yourself. So you're just getting started. You've got a limited market presence. Your client list isn't as large as some other businesses may have, and you're still trying to establish a loyal customer base. So with that, what we're talking about with you is establishing a solid foundation, entering into the market, and then looking at the initial growth that you want to be able to build for your business so that you can get to your definition of success. When it comes to existing businesses, what we're looking at is establishing your market presence, making sure that you have steady revenue, and looking at ways to be able to expand or overcome growth stalls. Sometimes your business can do well up until a certain point, and then you realize you're not continuing to see that uptrend. You've kind of plateaued. And when you get to that point, it can be okay, but if you're looking to take on more customers, if you're looking to take a step back and instead of focusing mainly on running the business, you want to start owning the business, then that means that you have to bring people in. That means that you may have to either hire someone as an employee or you're going to outsource certain things, and you need budget and things for that. So that's why it's relevant to make sure that you're constantly looking for ways to be able to improve how much revenue that you're bringing in, and then eventually also what kind of profitability that you're bringing in, because that's how you're paying yourself. So for the existing businesses, we're looking at optimizing operations, scaling market, expansion, and doing it without alienating your current customers. So for engagement tips, we're looking at self-identification challenges. The way that you can kind of decide which version you are is listening for certain things. Are you in the early stages of your business, focusing on establishing yourself and your presence in the market? Are you working to become consistently profitable, as opposed to an existing business that's looking for ways to fine tune and say, I know that these things are already working, but how can I do it better? So optimizing operations, expanding on your market presence. People know that I exist, but I feel like I could be getting more of the business that's already out there. And then again, I'm putting a focus on without losing your current customer base. And the reason that I keep focusing on that is a lot of times what happens is when someone says, okay, when I want to scale, I want to branch out into new markets. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll forget about their existing customers. They'll start focusing on the new audience that they want to be able to get, and the existing customers that are helping to hold that company up start feeling alienated. They start feeling like they're left behind. One of the most common ways that you'll be able to see that is when someone starts to branch out, they start changing the layout of their website. So if you're someone that's been going to the same site for a certain amount of time, then it comes down to, okay, well, when I go into the site, I know exactly where I need to go. Okay, when you change the website and you change the layout of it, that person that has been going to the site and knows how to be able to find it without even really looking at it, all of a sudden they have to start looking and saying, okay, well, where did you move this? Where did you move that? That's going to be a bad customer experience, and that's where you can start to alienate the customers that you have by focusing on the new ones so much that you're taking their advice and their experience and you're prioritizing it over the ones that have already been there. So let's take a look at the initial thought. The initial thought, when we're talking about awareness, consideration, and decision, or know, like, trust, what I don't like about those is it doesn't give you the nuance. It doesn't tell you, okay, well, if you're saying know, like, trust, with the know, how are people supposed to get to know about you? If you're saying awareness, how are you making people aware of you? What we really should be looking at is the customer and what we're truly addressing. When we talked about the listen method, we talked about listening for things that they felt were challenges that weren't being addressed. In some cases, we're going to take it further back and we're going to say some people don't even know that there's challenges that they should be addressing. They're so used to it being the status quo that they're not thinking that there are options out there for them to be able to address it. The initial thought actually addresses that. So we're creating a space for a new thought or an idea beyond the existing habits. We're looking beyond the status quo. We're looking at customers and realize that there may be more effective ways to to address challenges or struggles. So we're basically saying, are you aware that there's another way to be able to do this? So if we go back to the entrepreneurial types, we can say this is going to be something where, yes, it would be for the assimilators, but it's going to be more so for the innovators and the disruptors. So innovation, you're creating something and you're letting them know that you created something that is a new way for them to be able to go about their business, face whatever challenge it is that they may be facing. A disruptor, you're saying, you know what, I know you're used to doing things this way, but let me give you a thought that you may not have considered. Here's another way for you to be able to do something. And that's the initial thought. You're really just trying to plant that seed and say, you know what, here's an idea. Now, you're not trying to sell them on it. You're really just focusing on saying, here's an idea and giving them the opportunity to be able to work their way through it. So, one of the things that we covered before, and I'll kind of recap right now, is it typically takes about 7 times for someone to be able to see something that you're selling before they're ready to be able to make a purchase. So that's why I think it's important to understand the things that come earlier in the phase, because when you plant that initial thought, this is one of those first impressions that you make. So everyday examples. This is a crucial for planting the seed that motivates customers to consider alternatives. Let's look at cooking recipes, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. There are so many different places that are popping up with videos to say, here's how to make a dish in five easy steps. That realization opens a door to possibilities that there could be a simpler, more efficient way to handle other tasks or challenges. So the initial thought, again, is really just planting the seed to say, here's an idea. Here's something that you may not have considered. Actionable insights for early stage businesses. You want to focus on creating content that introduces the new ideas and challenges. That may look at, as an example, it may look like storytelling to highlight common struggles, 5 hacks and tips for dot, dot, dot. And you can do that through blog posts, social media content, or videos that showcase innovative solutions and everyday problems. So those quick shorts that you see where there are longer videos, but they've condensed it down to be able to show someone in a cooking recipe, here's the things that you need. Here's me starting a project. Here's midway through. And then here's the final piece where I take a fork or a spoon and I say, this is delicious. Didn't you like it too? So it's being able to do something like that where you're planning that initial thought of maybe I want to cook a recipe like that. I never thought that I would want to be able to cook something like that. It plants the seed for them to start thinking through, is this something that they want to be able to do? For existing businesses, you're sharing additional use cases, expanding on the narrative and the perception of your product or service. So this is where you can start to say, did you know that you could also use this product or service too? Most people think of us as, but we also dot, dot, dot. So what we're really trying to do is we're trying to control the narrative. And the reason we want to control the narrative is because if you don't, the audience will. And when you create a product, we talked about the upsides of finding new use cases. One of the things that we also want to be able to do is kind of steer people in the direction of use cases that we've already tested, things that we already know that we're prepared to be able to deliver on. If you don't and you leave it open to interpretation, you can have someone try to use something in a way that it's not meant to be used and then have a bad experience and then say, well, your product didn't work. And the onus would be on us because we had the responsibility to explain to them, here's how we see it being used. Here's the ways that we can deliver on it and make sure that you can get those consistent results. And here's how you can be able to work on it from there. So did you know that you could use this product too? And then most people think of us as, but you can also use us for this. So that introduces that new idea, that plants that new thought to say, I know you were used to thinking of us this way, but here's another way that we bring value to market. And that brings us to passive looking. Passive looking is once you give someone the idea, then they start to say, okay, well, now that I know that information is out there, they start gathering information and learning about the new idea without actively seeking solutions. So it's something where sometimes people can introduce you to something and then all of a sudden you start seeing it all these other places. Now you may not be seeking it out, but it gives validity to the saying, once you see something, you can't unsee it. Once you learn something, you can't unknow it. So once someone plants that seed, then we start the process of passive looking. It means that they'll start to see it other places. They'll start to see examples of it. And when they see the examples of it, it starts to help them align it to, is this something that really fits what I need? So passive looking, we're looking at gathering information about the idea without actively seeking solutions. Everyday example, this stage helps customers build knowledge and solidify the new thought of creating a foundation for future active searching. So watching that video or reading stories about how others use the product or service in ways that they haven't done it before. So it's reading a blog article about different ways to cook pasta. You may have only made it one way, but then you realize, like, I'll give you an example. I was looking at Instagram and I'm used to boiling water. I saw something where they said, put it in a pan and put it in the oven. For me, that was, okay, never thought about it like that. So this is where passive looking comes in, and this is where it's important to start with those early stages, because if you're a small business owner, it's important for you to get in early in the process so that you pretty much have their ear, the better part of the customer journey. When you can start early, they get familiar with you. So then that leads us into the more common versions of know, like, trust. When you get them to when you get them to know who you are and you're educating them through that process in the early stages, they don't forget who introduced them to topics. They don't forget who uh, made something available to them. They will start to look at other options as they go through because then they want to find out who's the best fit, but they don't forget who introduced them to it. And it's important for you to be at that stage as a small business owner because there's less competition there. Actionable insights. For new and early stage businesses, is creating simple and engaged content that informs and captures interest. So it's something as simple as a story or a tip on social media that says, see how so and so improved their cooking routine with this product. It's looking as an existing business and saying, I'm going to use customer feedback to show and create that narrative. Our customers found surprising new ways to use this product in their everyday cooking. So again, this is really just saying, first we planted the thought, and now we're giving you use cases so that you can see how to be able to apply it. Because once you give someone the initial idea and then you start to give them use cases, then they start to look for more ways that it really dials into aligning with their purpose and their goals. And that brings us to active looking. So active looking is really where they start to seek and compare solutions to the problem or challenge. So when we say awareness, consideration, and decision making, this is where we start to branch out into consideration. This is where they start to look at, okay, who else can help me with this problem? How do I find ways that I can make sure that I'm getting the solution that I want? It's where they start to set their expectations. So let's take a look at everyday examples and why it matters. In this stage, this is where customers start looking for options and figuring out what can help them best. And then they start comparing different brands of pasta sauce in the store, reading labels, asking friends for recommendations. They're trying to get a full scope of what's out there and then start to narrow it down from there. Actionable insights. For early stage businesses, this is where you can provide clear informations and comparisons about your product or your service. This is where you can share FAQs and guides and tell customers why this product is great for this specific problem. For existing businesses, you're using customer success stories and detailed info about your product. This is where you can say how this product helped this customer make delicious meals easily. This is where you go from telling people about use cases to starting to tell them more about the results that you deliver with the use cases. So when you're getting into that consideration phase, you don't want to just tell people about the options that are out there. You want to talk about the solutions that you're able to deliver. And when you have frequently asked questions, when you have customer stories, when you have customer success stories, you're giving them not only the beginning, but you're giving them the middle and the end. You're walking them through what the process is and allowing them to be able to set those expectations. So I'm going to pause here for a moment and see if there are any questions or if there's anything else that they would like me to be able to cover.
Right now, we don't have any questions. I think everyone's just listening intently. So
Okay.
carry on, and I'll let you know if we get some questions.
Okay, perfect. And this is going to be a shorter presentation because, again, this is conversational. We've covered two series leading up. We've covered two webinars leading up to this. I want to make sure that anyone that has questions, we're leaving time to be able to tie those things together so that you can see how to be able to take action. So we've talked about as far as the generic version, we've talked about awareness and consideration. Now we're getting to that deciding moment. We're getting from the point where we planted the thought. We started to share use cases with them. Then we started to share the solutions that those use cases experience or the customer success stories. And then we get to that deciding moment. And this is where people start to make purchase decisions based on the information that they've already gathered. Customers are weighing the pros and cons and deciding what's the best fit for them. This is where they start taking those expectations they have and saying, who's going to deliver on them? So, everyday examples and why it matters. This is the key point to where customers decide to buy. And what your goal is to help them make that decision and show them where you can make a difference. This is where you start to stand out more. So you're really leaning into those differentiators more. It's less worried about the results and more talking about there are several people that can deliver these results. Here's why I'm the one that's probably going to be the best fit for you. As an example, choosing which brand of pasta to buy after comparing options based on price, ingredients, and reviews. So let's take a look at the actionable insights. For early stage businesses, what you're really trying to do is make it easy for people to buy from you. So when they go to your website, if it is going to your website, have a simple website, clear calls to action, special deals like buy now and get 20% off your first purchase. For an existing business, you're focusing more on making it easy for repeat purchases and upselling. So where some people will say, here's this initial product, and then when they get to the cart, you'll see times where people will say, uh, these people bought this, but they've also bought this. So there are plenty of ways for you to be able to set yourself up to not only get that initial sale, but as you start to learn more about your customers and you're trying to get them to do repeat business, then you start to add in the extra things to say, well, if you like this, then this is actually comparable to that. This will help you be able to take that to the next level. Or you're just really focusing on making it easier for people to come back and buy. Because again, when you're thinking about business, it's a lot easier to get existing customers to buy again than it is to go out and start this customer journey all over again from the beginning and have to worry about getting people all the way through the process. Once you set the expectations and meet them, it's a lot easier to consistently meet those expectations. So as we go through this, we're going to talk about what happens after the purchase. So then this way you can make sure that you're not only meeting the expectations, but you're creating such a great experience that it makes people want to be able to tell other people about it. So for an example, personalized recommendations, loyalty discounts, like customers who bought this also like this. Join our loyalty and rewards program for exclusive discounts. You're saying not only are we thankful that we have you as a customer, but we also want to make sure that we're showing our appreciation by giving you things beyond what the average person may get. And that brings us to onboarding. This is where someone has already made the purchase and now they're part of the process. Now they're in that part of we've exchanged revenue. In some cases, if it's a product, you probably have already been paid in full. If it's a service, you may have gotten a partial payment. And what we're looking at this point is the first experience of using your product or your service and meeting those expectations. So you're setting the expectations before the purchase, and then you're focusing on making sure that you meet them after they've actually made that investment. So customers assess if their purchase meets the needs and expectations. Did you live up to the hype that you was telling me before I actually handed you my money? Because if you do, then you're already starting things off on a great note. If it's something where you talked all of this great things and said, here's all the wonderful things that I'll be able to do, and no sooner than they got the money, you can't get someone on the line. You got to go through chat, and then they'll say, well, we'll follow up with you in an hour or two, and then it ends up waiting, and you look up the next day and you still didn't hear back. All of those things are things that affect onboarding, and it diminishes the experience of someone that is going in with that good feeling. If you buy something and then you realize that you get it, and no sooner than you get it, you still have that excitement. You don't want anybody poo-pooing that feeling. You want to make sure that that rush that they have, that high that they have from making that purchase stays there. Because so many of purchases are made, I want to say it's 95% of purchases are made off of emotional connections. So when people feel connected to you, they make that purchase. Your obligation after that is you've set the expectations, make sure that you're meeting them and exceeding them. Now, I think I saw a question come up, so I just want to pause here and make sure that it's not something timely.
We do have a couple of questions I'm
Mm,
getting. So our first question, Charity, if you could expand on that question that you have so we make sure we get you the right information, I would appreciate that. And then our second, you can tell me if you want to address this now or if you want to wait
mm,
until we're done with your materials. This person has a question about when you go business to business, looking
mhm.
to get your product in a store, and what tips you have for like that negotiation process that takes place.
Sure. That is outside the scope of what we're talking about with the
Okay.
customer journey, but happy to be able to answer your question. The first and foremost, what's in it for them? Uh, they have it's basically it's saying, I know that you have the audience. Or they're saying to you, I have the audience. What are you going to do to make it worth my while to give you access to them? So when you're in a negotiation period, if you go in with that mindset of, I need to be bringing something to the table. One of the jokes that I have with people and friends alike is bring more to the table than a knife and a fork. So when you're having that negotiation, you want to be able to come in and say, listen, uh, matter of fact, I'll give you an example. When I used to throw events, one of the things that I would talk to people about is how much, if they want to negotiate the price, I would say, okay, well, I expect to bring this many people in. I'm going to let you have the bar and I'll keep what we make at the door. Or if they were insisting upon getting a cut of what we made at the door, which is the price to entry, then I would negotiate how much I was going to get at anyone that spent money at the bar. Normally, any place that's worth their salt that knows that they're running venues, they care more about the bar than they care about the entry. Because entry, someone's only paying to get in once. A bar, people are most likely buying more than one drink. There are people in there that like to impress people. So they're going to say bottles on me, drinks on me, all of those different things that come along with it. That's longer money. So when you're thinking about trying to get into a store, don't think about uh, the cost of getting into the store. Talk to them about the money that they're going to make on the long haul. So it's not only am I going to be able to bring you customers that may come into your store and may look for specific items, but now they'll know that they'll be able to find them there. And when you promote your product, then you can say, if it's the only place that you're working with, you can say, I exclusively supply this store with my product. So that gives them an edge, and that makes you advertise them so that that's more money that they don't have to spend to advertise themselves. Now, I can follow up on that and give you more details, but that gives you a pretty good starting point that go in with something where you can talk about the value that you'll bring them for the long term. And then also understand that they have the audience, similar to it being Facebook or any of these platforms. They have rules for you to be able to be on their platform. You don't get to just walk into their store and say, well, I'm just going to take some of your customers and leave with and have them leave with me. You have to be able to give them something to make it worthwhile for them to put you on their shelves. So talk to them about the level of customers that you'll bring in and the consistency in which your customers buy so that they know if they want to be able to go to a physical location to get it, this is where you can go to get it. So you don't have to just get it from me. You can get it from them, and they may have special discounts. There'll be different reasons for them to come into that store more. And if you're selling something uh, that complements other things that they sell, that's another way to be able to negotiate that. So if it's something where, let's use clothing as an example. If you're selling pants and you know they sell tops, then if someone's going in to buy a pair of pants, then it gives them the opportunity to be able to sell a hoodie, a sweatshirt, any of the other things that may serve as an accessory to what you sent them in there to buy. So if you know that you're able to complement what they already have in stock, then that's to your advantage because you're saying not only am I bringing you customers to buy what I'm selling and what you'll be selling for me, but I'm bringing them in so that you have an opportunity to be able to move the rest of your stock. Because if anyone has a storefront, one of the first things that they know is they have to be able to move that stock. Because if you buy things and you don't move it, if it's something that's perishable, it's going to end up being something that you have to throw away at some point. If it's something that needs to be maintained or anything like that, then there's a responsibility. They have to be able to move that out of the shelves. Think supermarkets where there's milk and they've got due dates. After a certain point, you'll notice that they start giving sales. They give you those loyalty discounts where, oh, if you use your discount card, you'll be able to get a discount to be able to buy this, that, or the other, or we'll take something off of your total purchase. It's because they know they have to move those products. There's only but so much that they can do and just leave that on the shelves. So hopefully that answers your question. And if you have more, just feel free to reach back out. I would need more specifics because I do customized solutions. I don't like to do things where I just kind of make blanket statements because every situation is a little bit different. So if you're talking to a store owner that has specific hangups, let's discuss what those hangups are and then give you something that you can present to them that makes sense to them and to you so that you're not compromising your end goal trying to see to theirs.
Okay. So the person that asked that question said, thank you.
Mm,
Our other question has to do with the previous slide. So I'm going to hold that one until you're done. And then we'll go back to that slide so the person can catch that information. So carry on
okay,
for
no,
now.
it's
Oh, are
okay.
you
What
good?
was it?
Okay. So they
The
just wanted
deciding
number
moment?
one. What they missed that very first
Oh, the initial thought?
the initial, there it is, the initial
Okay.
thought. Yes.
I made this short so that we can go back and forth, and I don't want to confuse everyone else, but I want them to have the visuals. So, what was the question?
They just wanted to see what number one was, the
Ah,
what
okay.
that item was. So
I am going to scold you slightly and remind you that Jenny is doing a great job of making sure that you get these presentations. So I keep seeing in the feedback towards the once it's done, oh, I wish we could have stayed on that slide a little bit longer. I actually want you to focus on what we're discussing and not worry about taking notes as much because there's articles, there's PDFs, there's so many different things where I go into this in more detail. This is an introduction. So as great as it is to look at this slide, there's going to be more examples that may be more relevant to you. And I don't want you to get so caught up on trying to get these specific examples when we could be looking at ways for you to have an example that directly aligns with what you're doing in your business. So happy to go back and hopefully this gave you a chance to screenshot it or do whatever you needed to be able to do. But we started with the listen method because I really want to drive the point home of listening more than trying to learn on the spot.
all right. And as a reminder, we will send out a PDF copy of
Mhm.
Sean's slides today and a link to this playlist for this series. So you will have things to review when you come back.
Okay.
Okay, so let's carry on for now, and then
Mhm.
we had a question coming through chat that we'll get in a few minutes.
Yes, I see it, and I will definitely address it. So we were on onboarding, and
Yes.
again, onboarding is really just talking about what happens directly after that purchase. So it's do you send a follow-up email as soon as that sale went through? Do you send something that follows up and gives them instructions and sets the expectations of what they can expect to see? In some cases, I will tell my clients we can stick with clothing. I want you to be able to send them something that says, thank you for your purchase. Here's what you can expect. If there's shipping and handling time, set those expectations of you're not going to get this tomorrow. Let them know that it may take you time because it's made to order. So you're not making it until they order it, or any of the things that they may need to know. You want to kind of set those expectations during the onboarding so that you're keeping them at a level that they're not being disappointed. Actionable insights for new and early stage businesses. What we're looking at is providing easy to follow guides and good customer support. Onboarding is really about customer support. An example would be step-by-step guides and tutorials like getting started with this product or how to set up your product in 5 easy steps. Those things allow someone to be able to go from saying, I felt good about making this purchase to, I'm glad you knew I was going to ask that question. The more you can make them feel like you're on the same page with them, the more you feel aligned and heard as a customer, the more you're willing to say, you know what, from beginning to end, this was just a great experience. For existing businesses, you're reinforcing satisfaction and encouraging regular use. So onboarding calls, follow-up emails like we're here to help, schedule your free onboarding call today. It's those extra measures that allow people to continue to feel good about that actual investment and the choice that they made. And that brings us to ongoing use. Ongoing use is what happens after you do that initial onboarding, where the expectations are continue to be lived up to, but now you want to make it so that you become part of their everyday. And if not every day, however often it is that they may want to be able to use that product, or however often it may be reasonable for them to use that product or service. So regular use and integration of the product or service into their daily life. When we're looking at examples, we're looking at something where regularly using a favorite kitchen gadget to prepare meals and finding it helpful and reliable. Once you introduce something into someone's daily life and it becomes part of a habit, then it's harder for them to see themselves not having it. And you've just insinuated yourself in their life in a way that makes it so that you're not easily replaced. And that's one of the most important parts. So where we hear know, like, trust, and awareness, consideration, and decision, what I don't like about those is they don't talk about what happens after the purchase. That's why we see so many people have customer retention issues, where they get a customer and then they can't keep the customer because they only focused on what happens leading up to the purchase. What I want us to do is make sure that when we talk about the customer journey, we're talking about the early stages of getting their attention. And then we're also talking about what happens after you get their attention, what happens after you get that investment. So this is one of the reasons why I stress the importance of ongoing use and onboarding. Actionable insights. For new and early stage businesses, you're building strong relationships and you're gathering feedback. So we've talked about customer feedback loops. This is where you reach out to a customer, and the loop is you don't stop asking a question, you just ask it in a different way to make sure that you continue to get that feedback. So regular check-ins, surveys, loyalty programs, tell us what we're doing. Tell us what we're doing right, tell us what we're doing wrong. Join our loyalty programs for exclusive perks. This is getting them to feel more and more like they're part of something. So then this way they have less reason to not want to be part of something. For existing businesses, offer continuous support and build a community. VIP programs and ongoing support like join our VIP club for premium support and benefits. During my corporate days, I worked for a company that serviced HR, affinities, and institutions. And what we did was we gave them loyalty and rewards. So for employees, they got loyalty and rewards. We would source vendors that were relevant to them and make sure that those vendors were offering discounts that made people want to be able to spend money within those loyalty and rewards programs. Same for infinities. That could be a bar association. That could be a bunch of different places that had memberships. Institutions, you're talking about places where once you sign up, like card memberships, think about getting a credit card, and some offer points and some offer cash back. So it's knowing that you not only want to be able to get a customer, you want to continue to give them value. You want to continue to, whenever they think of you fondly. And that brings us to the end, but not the end of the actual conversation. So summary of the key points, the initial thought. What we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage new ideas and ways to improve current habits. Passive looking, we help customers learn more and solidify the new idea. Active looking, we guide customers as they seek and compare different solutions. The deciding moment, we assist customers in making the best purchase decision. Onboarding, we ensure that the first experience meets the customer expectations, and then ongoing use, it keeps customers happy and engaged over time. So the customer journey that I've shared with you is something that I find useful and is Bob Mester's demand side principles. So it's something where this is someone, the reason I like Bob Mester is because he's not just focused on the sale, he's focused on the consumer, he's focused on the business, he's focused on the job to be done. So if you've ever heard of the job to be done theory, that's from him. And he, along with others, put it together. But the thing that I love about it is it's not focused so much on the business idea, it's focused on what result are you meant to deliver? What are you meant to deliver in a way that gives that person a solution that they're looking for? So he not only focused on that, but he built a customer journey around that. And I wanted to share that with you because I think it's important to understand the early stages as a small business owner, because when you enter into the customer journey during the latter stages, it makes it difficult because you're dealing with more competitors. And if you don't have an established presence, and they're basing it on, like if we go back to the pasta example, where you're comparing pricing and recommendations and all those other things, there's so many other factors that can make someone say, well, I'm going to go with this other person. As small business owners, sometimes you're competing against larger companies and they will overwhelm you with features. They'll say, oh, well, we'll throw this in and we'll throw this in, we'll throw this in. And the reality is, the person that's making that purchase probably doesn't need those features, but they feel like they're getting something. So they may go in that direction, even if it's not the best fit. So by starting earlier in the process, you're educating them on the things that actually matter. So by the time they start getting hit in the head with all of these features, they realize, you know what, all of that's great, but that's future use. And I'm nowhere near that future. So I'm going to focus on who can actually deliver the results that I need right now. And that is why I stress the importance of the listen method. And then also talked about the 10 entrepreneurial types, because when you know the type of entrepreneur you are, if you're a nurturer and you're someone that wants to be able to educate people, then you're going to be comfortable in those early stages because you're a guide. You're that GPS that takes someone from having that initial thought to making sure that they're able to get the solution that they were looking for. If you're someone that is more focused on the transactional part of it, then it may be a little bit more of a struggle to focus on the initial thought, but it is something that once you set, then you can start to focus on getting customers to be able to explain that part. So if you're not a good storyteller, let the customer be the storyteller. Let them say, I wasn't thinking anything about this product or this service. It wasn't until I heard someone say something about it, or I saw the ad a few different times and I said, you know what, that sounds interesting, but is it really for me? And then they say, but once I used it, or once I started doing the research, then I found out about this. And then I realized this is something that's meant for me. If you want to think about the customer journey and people that do it really, really well as far as giving solutions and telling great stories, think of QVC. Think of all of these infomercial that run at like 2, 3 in the morning. They know that there's someone up that has some kind of challenge or problem, because if they weren't, they would probably be asleep. And because they're dealing with something and they're trying to sort through, trying to come up with solutions, think about how they sell those infomercials. The first thing that they do is they introduce it. Then they jump straight into here's some use cases, and then here's the problem that it solves. So if you're really thinking about the customer journey, you want to figure out how to be able to kind of abbreviate it down. Look at some of those infomercials. Look at those programs that come on at like 2, 3 in the morning. They're able to sell at that time of morning or night or whichever way that you want to call it, because they figured out what the method is, and then they've mastered it to the point where they can bring just about anyone in and they say, use this format. And as long as you use this format, we'll be able to get you some sales. So now, before I close this out with this portion of it, I'm going to give you a verbal version of what the customer journey sounds like. The initial thought is, never thought about it before. Active and passive looking is, okay, I can see that. And then as you get to the decision-making process, then it's like, okay, so, never thought about it before. Aha, now I'm starting to see how this applies to me. And okay, as in, not only do I understand that this is something that could address a problem, I have a better idea of how I would go about it. And now I'm at the decision-making process of, okay, this is going to be the best person for me. And then we get to onboarding and ongoing use, and it's look at what I did. So you can go from aha, okay, to look at me. And if you understand that and you think about it in that context, the I never thought about it before is you really just planning that initial thought. The aha moment is where someone makes that connection between what you're talking about and how it actually fits into their life. And then okay, now I've figured out, I understand how this works for me. I understand why this is something that I should be interested in. That's the decision-making process. That's where you're helping them to make that decision. And then hopefully that helps you out. Okay. And then in conclusion, this is just a little bit more about me. The way that I set things up, I realized that people learn different ways. And some cases, people want to learn at their own pace. That is what you call DIY, do it yourself. DWY is done with you. So that's coaching sessions, workshops, things like that. And then there's done for you. That means you probably have more money than you have time, and you're not necessarily trying to figure out how to do it. You're just trying to figure out how to get the best solution. So there's the QR code, and then there's the links that you'll be able to get that walk you through the PDFs and everything else. And then it's as simple as SeanMAtkinson.com to be able to learn more about me and the different ways I might be able to help you. And that's it. Now I just want to leave enough time for questions, and I will go back to the one that was in the chat and then make sure that we haven't missed any others.
Yes. Yes. And I just want to remind everyone, um, this webinar is brought to you by the Brockport SBDC. And so if you are interested in no-cost, high-quality business advising services from any of our regional centers, if you're not in the Brockport area, there's information in the chat for you. I put the link to the Brockport Center's website if you are in their area, and then there's a link that can help you find your local center if you are not in the Brockport region. All right, so let's go back to the question we have. And as a reminder, please put any questions that you have into the Q&A box. We also have the chat, so we can pick up questions there as well.
So I
So,
see Lee
yes.
Field.
Mhm.
My business serves youth who probably aren't interacting with my social media. Parents would be my customer then. Um, I would want more context to understand what it is that you do, so that this way I can give you a clear answer. But if you're, the short answer is most likely. The realistic answer is think about it in reverse. I was watching something and I joked with my mother about it because I saw the Hess toy truck commercial. And I remember thinking back to it as a kid. And no sooner than the commercial came on, my eyes lit up and I turned around to my mother. And before I could even say I want one, she was like, no, you only want it because you see it. So they were selling it to me, but they knew my mother needed to buy it. So as brands, what we think about is who's going to be the one that's making the purchase, because that's going to be at the end of the day, the decision maker and the gatekeeper. If you know that you're selling to youth and it's supposed to serve them, then you're basically having two conversations. You're having one wherever that youth is so that they can say, I want to go back to the parent and say, I need this. Or you're having a conversation with the parent that's going to say, you know what? This is going to be good for you. And whether you like it or not, this is meant to be able to make you into the person that I want you to be. So that's what I'm saying. It would be important to know what it is that you're doing, because I can tell you which one that you would want to lean into more and which one you would make more secondary. So we'll still have some time. Think about it and then let me know. And then I will try to give you more of a customized answer. But that is the big, broad version of, is it the parent? Most likely, if you're not getting directly to the youth. But if we go back to the listen method, find out where the youth is and make sure that you're putting something there, because it's one thing to be able to try to get a parent to sell them on it. But how many kids think their parents are cool? How many people, as far as kids, really listen to their parents and say, oh, well, yeah, you come to me, of course I'm going to listen to what you say. The first thing that they do, especially as teenagers, and when you say youth, that's what I'm trying to figure out what age group you're in. Everything that they say, they want to do the opposite. So if you're dealing with that kind of an audience, then you need to be having two separate conversations, and you want to be very intentional with that. So give me a little more detail, and I will give you a bit more detail and customize it to your situation.
So this person did drop some information into the chat. They host
Perfect.
art workshops for
Mhm.
young children. They are an aspiring arts therapist and hoping to work with teens eventually.
Okay, so teens, we're talking about more of a rebellious age. So you definitely want to plant the seed with them and show them the advantages of being able to work with you. If you see this as something that's therapeutic, then you want to have that conversation with them about it being therapeutic and why it's something that they should be interested in. And then talk about the responsibility and the results and how you're going to mold them into a great person to the parents. So to the parents, you're talking about big picture. I'll give you an example. When I was younger, as much of an old soul as I am, my mother said I needed structure. So she put me in the cadets. I couldn't stand the cadets, but I got structure. It was just something that she forced me to do. And I said, I will do this for as long as you have the say. But as soon as I get old enough where I can have a say in this, oh, this is over. So I did it begrudgingly. But do you want to sell them something begrudgingly, or do you want them to come to their parents and say, this is something I really think would be great for me, and give them everything that they need to do the sales pitch so the parent feels good about giving them the money to be able to do it? So, two separate conversations. I would lean into having a very specific conversation about the upside for the students, for the youth that you want to be able to reach. If it's therapeutic, talk about how they'll benefit from it, the instant gratification, because at that age, you're more focused on instant gratification. So you want to talk about the immediate solution that you'll be able to provide, and then sell them a parent on the long-term solution and how it'll be able to benefit them over time. Because most likely, I'm assuming this isn't a one-off, this is an ongoing thing. So the child can sell them on doing it once. The parent is going to be interested in making sure that they do it over time.
Thank you, Sean. And we had someone who just asked if we will be sharing a link to the presentation. We will indeed in a follow-up email that you'll get from Zoom, and it will have a link to a folder where you can find these materials that Sean is sharing today, as well as the other materials that he's been sharing from his other webinars. And then also a link to the series playlist on YouTube. So you can have all three available to you to review. All right, so our next question then, we have a micro boutique baker specializing in Eastern European cookies, like hard to find recipes from Hungary, Germany, and Lithuania.
You had me at
Sounds
cookies.
delicious.
You had me at cookies.
I
I don't
know.
know if you
I'm
can
like,
see
where
it,
do
but
we find you?
I've got a cookie monster up behind me. So you've won me over immediately. I'm sorry. What's the question?
Yeah, so they currently do pop-up events,
Hmm.
and they have a website, haven't done sales through the website yet,
Hmm.
and a workspace at a dead mall. So
Okay.
they have loyal customers and a newsletter, but not enough to pay rent yet. And so, what are some things that this business owner could look at doing and encouraging this customer journey?
Got it. Let's look at the customer journey. Thankfully, I use food as an example in these slides because we will directly correlate that to your cookie business. Let's go back to doing shorts and videos on uh, how to be able to use these recipes. If you're not sharing the recipes, then I would kind of give them a behind the scenes look at what goes into doing it. So if they get the bright idea of thinking that they want to do it themselves, they can see what kind of work goes into it and go, that's too much work for me. I would much rather be able to get it from you. If it's a few clicks away, I would rather do the few clicks than go out and try to get a pinch of this and a touch of that. And you know what? There's so many things to go into it. I love cooking, so I would say if it's something where you're willing to share the recipe or a version of the recipe, that is also something that you can do because that will allow people to try the recipe and introduce it to people where people can say, well, this is good. Where'd you get it from? And then that opens up a door for a whole new revenue stream. If it's something that you want to keep exclusive, then you can do something where you kind of give them the behind the scenes look. And then you want to start looking at ways to be able to shorten the sales cycle. You want to make it easy for them to be able to get it. So where we talked about the initial thought, passive and active looking, you're giving them the shorts, you're giving them videos, you're giving them presentations of what the cookies look like. My mouth is watering thinking about cookies, so I have a picture in my head of what kind of cookies you're talking about. But if you give them the visual, then you have them looking at something. There's commercials out right now where they're talking about how the NFL is set up to be able to make people want to eat. That is not by accident. Like there is a long running thing of people planning thoughts. I had a friend that his brother worked in a department store, and the department store played music that had subliminal messages in it that said, "Do not steal." So there are people planting thoughts all over the place. If you go into a casino, they keep the air in there fresh and pumping so that people don't get groggy and decide, you know what, I'm just going to go lay down. You're wide, you're fresh, you're awake, you're feeling like I could do this all day. You want to create the experience for people so that they can feel like, you know what, this was easy for me to be able to do. So if you haven't done any of the sales through your website, start looking at being able to do more of the sales through your website. Make it so that when they land on the website, it's just a few clicks away from being able to make the purchase. And the fewer clicks, the more likely you'll be able to get some of that business. I also advise making sure that you send them to your website because that's where you'll be able to track where people are coming from. You'll be able to get some of those surveys and different things that will allow you to learn more about your audience and use that listen method to be able to figure out how you want to be able to get those customers and get them to be recurring customers. Because what I'm hearing is profitability. You're getting sales, but you're not getting the repeat business. And in order to get the repeat business, that's one of the reasons why I went through onboarding and ongoing use. I want to know more about what you're doing after they make the purchase because somewhere in there, you've met the expectations of getting the person to do the initial purchase, but we need to discover why they're not buying again, or they're not telling other people about it, or they're not sharing it with people so that when someone tries one of the cookies, they can go, you know what, I appreciate that you gave me half of one, but I would actually like to have two. So how can I go get two for myself so I don't have to worry about asking you, do you have any more of those? So it's that experience that you want to be able to create. And happy to be able to walk you through more of it, but that should give you an idea. Look at the early stages where you introduce it to the new audience and then actually start to evaluate. You've got the newsletter, use the newsletter to be able to gather more information about what's going on with the existing customers and take that information to start looking at how to be able to get them to buy more. Get them to do something where we're in holiday time. Do you have something where you allow people to buy it as a gift for someone else? And then have like the gift wrapping and allow them to be able to write out what they want to put on the card. Those are going to be ways for you to not only get that person to buy for themselves, but then also be able to share it with someone else. And I will give you one extra thing. When you're thinking about what product that you want to be able to sell or service, there's the wants, the needs, the nice to haves, and the guilty pleasures. You are somewhere in nice to have and guilty pleasure. So there are people that necessarily don't go around telling people about their guilty pleasures because it's a guilty pleasure. So, you know, it's if you're someone that is dealing with weight issues, you're not going to brag on the fact that you're going to buy cookies. I might, but other people may not. So you want to think about where you place in that spectrum of wants, needs, nice to haves, and guilty pleasures. If you're part of a guilty pleasure, lean into that as being a guilty pleasure, as being decadent, as being something where, like, look at the chocolate commercials, where they have the chocolate commercials, they talk about how decadent it is, the experience that you have. And it's not something that's an experience for everyone, it's a solo experience. They're not talking about sharing, they're talking about when you get this, you want to take that one little piece and savor it long enough because there's only so many pieces that you're going to have. When I told my now later story started with the fact that I bought a pack of now laters, and because I opened one and a bunch of people started asking me, "Oh, can I have one? Can I have one?" By the time I handed some of those out, I realized I had like three left in the pack. And I said, "Oh no, this isn't going to work." So that's when I said, "Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to monetize this. If you want to inconvenience me, then I'm going to figure out a way to be able to make it convenient for me and convenient for you. So this way it's a win-win, and I don't feel like I'm aggravated every time you come up and ask me for something. So start at the beginning and then look at what you have with the existing customers and look at ways to be able to get them to not only buy from you again, but to tell other people about it. And I would suggest looking at ways to be able to make it something that's a gift because the beginning of the sales process of planning that initial thought, it doesn't stop when they become existing customers. It just gives you more access to be able to do it with them. So you're planning that initial thought of, don't just get it for yourself. You're having that great experience. Don't you want someone else to have it too? And that gives you an
Fantastic.
opportunity to be able to sell it to them and have them want to sell it to other people. People like to look smart. People like to be able to have things that give them a great story to be able to tell. Lean into that. Lean into the decadence, the rarity of the cookies that you're bringing to market, and have them want to be able to tell other people about it. And when you do it that way, it opens up the door for you to be able to get not just the business from the initial customers, but start getting more people to think about the fact that it's not just something for them to get for themselves and hoard. Um, I mean, think about the parents that have children. I have a friend, I was hanging out at his house and his thing is, oh no, you can't leave those cookies on the counter. You'll come back and they'll be gone. He literally put them all the way up on the top of the cabinet. And I'm going, do you really have to go that far? He was like, I do. And it was like a half an hour later, and I heard, and when the kids came out of the kitchen, oh, whose cookies are those? How in the world did you see those cookies all the way up on the top of the cabinet? So when it's an experience that you want people to share, you have to give them the feeling that it's not something that's going to run out. Instead of having them ask for yours, get them some of their own, and you can literally put that into your marketing. There used to be a commercial that came on, and it would start at like 11 o'clock at night. I'm aging myself, but it was like a music commercial where it was albums and things like that, and you can get the series. And the person said, "Oh, well, let me borrow that." And the guy said, "No, my brother, you got to get your own." That's what you're selling. You're selling a great experience and then telling people, don't have them take yours, go get them their own so that they can have the experience that they want to have themselves. Test that out and start to gather feedback. I don't want to guarantee it, but I can tell you the people that are having a great experience, um, we get to a certain point where we do want to be selfish about it and we don't want to necessarily share, but we don't want to advertise that we don't want to share. So when you offer the option of making it a gift, then this way you let them off the hook of you can enjoy it and you make sure somebody else enjoys it and give them a way to go buy their own. Because this way they don't have a reason to ask you for some of yours. You gave them the link to be able to go get it directly from your website. And then you gather that extra information from them so that you can learn just as much about the new person as you do about the existing person.
All right. So Sean, she dropped her website, and I'll make sure to send it to you after
Perfect.
the webinar so you can look at it because yeah, now I want to order some. Okay,
You
so
know,
we have one last question. Do you have
mhm.
time to take one more question today?
I am here. This was conversational. I intentionally
Perfect.
left time. Is this the laundry service that picks up
This
or
is
is
the
this something
laundry
else?
service question.
Okay.
Yes. So are you good with doing that one? And then we'll
Yeah,
close after that.
absolutely. So let's
Okay.
check this out. Laundry service that picks up and delivers clean laundry. We are starting the business soon. We are developing a website and an app where they can schedule deliveries, and we didn't do any marketing yet. Wonderful. Okay, so this is a service that is needed for a lot of people. It's actually going to be very important location based. Because are you someplace where there are laundromats around, or are you someplace where people have to go a little bit further to be able to get it? Are you someplace where there are plenty of dry cleaners that do laundry, or is it something where it's not easily accessible? So those are going to be some factors that you want to be able to look into. Accessibility and what other options there are will dictate what kind of brand messaging that you're going to use. And then when it comes down to starting your business soon, there's nothing wrong with promoting your product long before or your service long before you roll it out, especially when you're talking about building a website and an app. Why not start training them on how to be able to use some of the things that you know that you're putting into place? When it comes to building an app or a website, specifically an app has to be about ease of use and something that people know how to use. So this is a great time to be able to let people know what it is that you have planned and ask them what matters to them so that this way you can actually get people downloading it and you're not paying for something that you may not use because a website can serve just as useful as being able to take orders as an app. So you may be investing in something that you don't need right now and saying, well, I'm going to get this because it's going to be easy to use. But if a lot of people aren't using it, then was it a good investment? So where I talked about in a previous session, I spent a whole bunch of money on future use things and I'm just getting around to using some of them. And then there's still some that I'm probably a good year out from using. Don't fill up your back burner with a bunch of things that you may not use because it's going to pull away from your focus of seeing to the thing that's right in front of you. So I would challenge you to make sure that the app is something that you absolutely have to have now, as opposed to the website, because you're just starting out. App is something that is normally used once people are up and running and they have enough of an audience that complain to say, I don't feel like going to the website. And then you can say to existing customers, well, there's an app for that. So if you're really worried about it, you can just go straight to the app. We're using smartphones for the most case, so someone can open up a website just as easily as they can open up an app. Apps cost money. So you need to really be clear on what you want in the app and what's going to be useful, because otherwise, if you don't do that research up front, you're going to end up spending a lot of money redoing the app. So I'm going to caution you there, and then continue to work through what you shared. Where they can schedule deliveries, and you haven't done any marketing yet. I'm going to tell you a story about rollerblades. When rollerblades first came out, before they initially launched, they handed them out to some people. And they handed them out to people that looked like they were people that other people would want to know. And they did it in certain areas. So in New York, they knew that there were people that would jog around the reservoir of Central Park in certain areas. So they gave them to those people. And people saw them with them, like, oh, that's so cool. Where'd you get that? I've seen skates where there was four wheels. How do you have this inline skate? Where is this? What's that? And it built up enough buzz so that by the time they went to actually launch, they didn't have to worry about doing marketing, because they did all the marketing leading up to it. I can tell you from music standpoint, this is why, not even music, movies, this is why they do trailers. If they waited till the day that they went to roll out a movie and say, oh, this is a great movie, you should come watch it, we have to go back to, it takes 7 times for someone to truly be interested in being able to take that next step. So do your marketing leading up to it. Lean into, when you're talking about laundry, lean into making the inconvenient convenient. Lean into, weekend warriors. That's one of my favorite terms when it comes to marketing, because now I'm a full-time business owner, so it doesn't apply to me the same way. But the weekend warriors, when you work Monday through Friday and you get Saturday and Sunday, you have a whole lot of things that you need to get done in that time. Anything that gives you that time back is something that makes the inconvenient convenient. You are set up to make the inconvenient convenient. You are someone that aligns with that weekend warrior to say, you know what, instead of worrying about, I'm going to put this in the laundry and then I'll come back and try to hang this up or do this or do that. Let me take that work off your plate. Let me allow you to go take care of whatever errands and things that you need to be able to run. And when you get back, it's just a matter of picking it up, or we'll deliver it to you. We're going to take that work off of your plate. So what you're really doing is you're talking about people that have more time than money when it comes to laundry. And what they're looking for is efficiency. So focus on the efficiency of your ability to be able to deliver, and the consistency of being able to do it. So if you're able to turn something around really fast, be consistent at it. Whatever it is that you're going to sell them on, be consistent at it. So I'll close on this. There are 3 basic pillars that I tell people for a successful business. Find a challenge or a problem that needs to be addressed, come up with a solution, and come up with a solution that you can consistently deliver. And then the fourth, as a bonus, is make sure the experience is so good that it makes people want to tell other people about it. And if you can cover those 4 things within what you're doing, I think you'll be just fine.
Wonderful advice, Sean. Thank you so much
Of
for
course.
all of the information today and for the past few weeks. You've been incredibly generous with your time and your knowledge and
Oh, one
talents.
one thing, one
Yes.
thing. I'm so sorry. There was someone that said, and I've noticed the feedback that said that they could not figure out how to be able to align any of what we were talking about to their industry and their
Mm.
situation. I want to be able to have a conversation with you, because I need context to be able to help you figure out how to make that connection. I meant to leave time to be able to ask you, in case you were attending, if this is something where you catch it afterwards, reach out. I do not want this to be something that you attended at least 2 sessions and got nothing from. I need context, because I will absolutely make sure that you have something to walk away with the same way everybody else did. So if you're here, ask the question, give me something. If not, get in contact with me and I will make sure that you have something that you can walk away from this with, because I, it bothers me. It's been bothering me for weeks, and I need to make sure that you don't walk away and didn't get anything from it. You invested your time, you should get something from it. I'm sorry, please continue.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sean. And so we'll have a survey that will show up when we shut the webinar down here today. If you can give us a few minutes and give us some feedback, we actually, as Sean just demonstrated, we read the feedback. So thank you for sharing your experience today and what else the NYSBDC, specifically the Brockport SBDC, can assist you with and trainings offered. And so thank you to all of our attendees for contributing and making this an interactive webinar. Those are the best kind.
Mm.
And we are always happy that we can get people real actionable information that they can then go use with their business. And as a reminder, if you want to delve into this more, NYSBDC advisors are no cost. And since we're a government funded program, they love helping people with brand and marketing strategy and so many other things throughout the business process, the whole business life cycle. We help
Mm.
businesses from idea to selling once they have achieved a great business that they then want to sell to somebody. Okay. And so here I am going to make sure I'm going to get this person. They just dropped something into the Q&A. So I'm going to make sure that this person gets in touch with you through email, Sean. Okay.
Is this the person that I
That
just
is the person.
wonderful,
It's the
wonderful.
person. So
I
I'm
will
going to
be able
connect
to
the two of
sleep
you
at
through
night.
email.
Thank you for sharing that information. It has truly
All
been
right.
bugging me for weeks. So
All
thank you for
right.
that. We will definitely connect, and I will reach out so that I can get some more information, and I will make sure that you have something that you can work with.
Perfect. Okay. I've got the email address and I will connect the two of you.
Perfect.
Thank you again, everyone, and have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.